So today, I want to take you to a specific place.
Okay.
And it's not a very glamorous place. In fact, it's usually concrete, kind of dimly lit, and it smells vaguely of, exhaust fumes and dust.
I think I know where this is going.
I'm talking about the basement parking garage of a typical apartment building or condo complex.
Yes, the dungeon of the electric vehicle revolution.
The dungeon. That's a perfect word for it because look, we spend so much time talking about the shiny stuff, the highway superchargers, the battery breakthroughs.
0 to 60 times.
Exactly. But for millions of people, the EV revolution it dies the moment they pull into that parking spot at home.
It's the garage problem. It's the bottleneck nobody puts on the billboard.
Right. And here's the scenario, and I think a lot of our listeners will feel this one.
Yeah.
You live in a condo, you buy an EV, you pull into your spot, B42, and right there on the pillar is a standard electrical outlet.
Just a regular wall plug. The
Right.
same kind you'd plug a vacuum cleaner into.
Exactly. And you think, great, I'll just plug in. But then you get the letter.
The letter?
The letter from the HOA or the Strata or the property manager. And it says, in no uncertain terms, do not touch that outlet.
And this is where the friction really starts. It's not that the building managers are evil.
No.
It's that they're accountants.
They're protecting the building's money. Because if you plug in, you are technically using the community's electricity for your private car. In their eyes, you're stealing.
Precisely. And the solution they usually offer is, sure, you can charge, just pay $5,000 to install a dedicated, networked, metered charging station.
Which, for a renter, is a total non-starter. So you have the stalemate, you have the fuel source, the electricity, literally 3 feet from the car, but you can't use it.
Because of a bureaucratic blind spot. It's a tragedy of the commons, in a way.
Which brings us to our research for today. We're looking at a company called Williston Technical Inc. and their app, EVnSteven. And I have to admit, when I first opened this file, I was looking for the hardware. I was looking for the smart plug, the dongle, something.
And what did you find?
Nothing. And I don't mean nothing as in it was bad. I mean, there's literally no hardware. The hook here is that this is a software-only solution.
That is the headline.
Mm-hmm.
The premise is that this app turns that dumb, forbidden outlet into a trackable, billable EV charging station without you buying a single piece of equipment.
Okay, so I want to pause here. Because my skepticism radar went off immediately. You're telling me I can download an app, plug my car into a dumb outlet, and it becomes a smart station?
Mm-hmm.
That sounds like magic or, marketing fluff. How do you turn a dumb outlet smart without a screwdriver?
It does sound like magic, but it's actually just really clever behavioral engineering. It's about shifting the burden of intelligence from the wall to the phone in your pocket.
So the phone does all the heavy lifting.
Yeah. Exactly. And if this works, and we'll get into the testimonials that suggest it does, it basically democratizes charging. It solves the infrastructure battle without drilling a single hole.
Let's talk about the environment this is built for. The sources keep using this term, trusted communities. What does that actually mean?
It's a crucial distinction. Think about a public charger at a grocery store. It's purely transactional. You tap a credit card, you take the juice, you leave.
Right. Cold and impersonal.
Trusted communities are places where there's an existing relationship. A condo, an apartment complex, a workplace. The driver isn't a stranger. It's Bob from App 3G.
Or for our listeners in Canada or Australia, Bob from Unit 4, the sources mention Strata a lot, which is basically their version of an HOA.
Right. And usually the rule is no charging, because the Strata manager says, we can't let Bob plug in because we don't know if he used $5 of electricity or 50.
And they aren't going to install a separate utility meter for one outlet. That would cost a fortune.
A fortune. So EVnSteven acts as the bridge. It lets Bob say, I'm plugging in now, and I'm unplugging now, and the app does the math.
Okay, but before we get to the math, which I do have questions about, I want to talk about charging speed. The app supports basic electrical outlets and basic level 2 stations, but the focus really seems to be on those basic wall plugs, level 1 charging.
The humble 110-volt outlet.
Yeah, and I feel like in the EV world, level 1 gets no respect. Everyone wants a supercharger, but there was this testimonial from a user named Harrison Caldwell. He's a Strata resident in Vancouver.
Oh, I bookmarked that one. It was a really sharp observation.
He said, trickle charging is highly overlooked, but really so very effective.
It's a contrarian take, but he's absolutely right.
But is he, let's play devil's advocate. If I plug into a standard wall outlet, I'm getting, what, 3, maybe 4 miles of range an hour. That feels painfully slow.
It is slow if you're trying to drive across the country, but think about the use case here. We need to reframe it. Think about your smartphone.
Okay, I'm with you.
When you go to bed, do you need some industrial supercharger to blast your phone from 0 to 100% in 5 minutes?
No, I just plug it into the little white cube on my nightstand and go to sleep.
Exactly. Because you're going to be asleep for 8 hours. Speed is totally irrelevant if the device is sitting idle anyway.
I see where you're going. The car is just a really big phone on wheels.
Precisely. A car in a residential building usually gets home at, 6 p.m., and it leaves at 7:30 a.m. It's sitting there for 13 hours.
Okay.
Even on a slow trickle charge, 13 hours gets you 40 or 50 miles of range.
And since the average commute is way less than that.
You wake up with a full tank every single morning. Harrison's point is that we're over-engineering the solution. We're telling condos they need to install $10,000 fire hoses when a garden hose would do the job.
If only we could measure the water.
That's it.
Okay, let's get into the weeds then, because this is the part I'm stuck on. You're saying this app can measure the electricity without a meter.
It's the Honor System 2.0.
But the honor system is, well, it's flimsy. If I'm an HOA treasurer, I'm immediately suspicious. How does the app know how much power I drew?
So mechanically, here's the workflow. You pull in, you open the app, use the easy check-in feature. It's basically a stopwatch. You're telling the cloud, I've started drawing power.
Okay, simple enough.
While you're charging, the app shows the station status, an estimated checkout time. When you unplug, you hit checkout. The app now knows the duration of the session.
But time isn't energy.
Correct. Time is time. To get energy, you need to know the flow rate.
And that varies, right? I mean, a Hummer EV is going to suck power way faster than a little Fiat 500. Won't the Hummer owner be underpaying?
That is the common misconception. And this is where the physics of the dumb outlet actually helps us.
Walk me through that.
A standard household outlet, a NEMA 515, technically is a bottleneck. It can only provide a maximum continuous load, usually about 1.4 kilowatts, like a drinking straw.
Okay, I like the straw analogy.
It doesn't matter how thirsty you are. If the straw is skinny, the water only flows so fast. The Hummer wants more power, but the wall says, sorry, buddy, 1.4 kilowatts is all I got.
So the car is limited by the outlet, not the other way around.
Exactly. So because the flow rate is fixed and constant for pretty much every EV on a level 1 outlet, the math becomes simple multiplication. Rate times time equals energy.
Okay, that makes sense. So it's an estimate, but it's a physics-backed estimate.
Right. There's a testimonial from a Josh Charles. He's a mechanical engineer, has a PhD from Coulson.com.
A PhD in mechanical engineering. Okay, so he's the guy who actually checked the homework.
You'd hope so. And his review specifically says, the math makes sense. The app uses accurate power consumption estimates. Is it scientific laboratory precision? Probably not.
But is it close enough to figure out if you owe the condo $2.50 or $2.60?
Yes. And that's really the goal. It just needs to be fair enough that the neighbors don't feel ripped off. It removes the argument that the driver is freeloading.
Now, speaking of arguments, there's usually an argument about whose outlet is this? The source material mentions a feature called station signage printing.
This is one of my favorite low-tech features. It's so clever.
It sounds so basic. You just print a sign.
It is basic, but think about the psychology. You have this rogue outlet. You go into the app, you set it up, and the app generates a PDF station ID tag for you to print out and just tape to the wall.
So I tape a piece of paper that says, EVnSteven station, #001 above the outlet.
And suddenly, it's not a rogue outlet anymore. It's infrastructure.
Yeah.
It signals to everyone. This is part of a system. This is tracked.
It legitimizes it. It's like putting a reserved sign on a table.
Precisely. It turns a piece of hardware into a service, and they combine that with super easy sign-ins, like with Google or Apple, so the whole interaction is just park, tap, charge.
Okay, so we've solved the physics and the legitimacy, but now we have to talk about the part that destroys friendships and condo boards. The money.
Always the money.
Because even if the app calculates that I owe $12.50 for the month, how does that money actually move? Does the HOA treasurer have to knock on my door?
Yeah, that would be a nightmare, a huge friction point. And this is where the app takes a really interesting stance. They list a feature called zero payment processing.
Now, in the tech world, zero fees is usually good. But here, does that mean the app doesn't handle money?
It implies that the app handles the ledger, but not the transfer.
Unpack that. Why is that better?
Well, think about microtransactions. If you charge your car for one night, you might owe, say, $1.50. If you process that through a credit card, you're losing 30 cents plus 3% in fees.
Right, so everybody loses a chunk of the pie.
Exactly. By stripping out the payment processing, the app basically says, here's the bill. Bobby owes the Strata $12.50 for January. How Bobby pays is up to them.
So it could just be added to my monthly HOA dues.
Exactly. Or a Venmo transfer. We see this in the testimonial from Bobby Garner, that Strata resident in BC. Bobby says, we can now reimburse our Strata for the electricity we use.
Reimburse. That's the key word.
It is. It's not about the HOA making a profit. It's about being made whole. The app creates the data trail that lets the reimbursement happen without the HOA having to become a merchant.
That is a huge distinction. If I'm on an HOA board, I don't want to run a business. I don't want to file taxes on charging revenue. I just want to not lose money.
Exactly. It keeps the complexity low. And honestly, from the landlord's perspective, the biggest selling point is just avoidance of costs.
How so?
Well, imagine you spend 10 grand installing a fancy dual port charger. Then the person with the EV moves out.
Now you have a $10,000 lawn ornament.
Right. With this software-only model, if the driver moves out, you just stop using the app, you peel the sticker off the wall, the sunk cost is zero.
That is extremely appealing. It's a reversible decision.
And it's flexible. The sources mentioned it supports automatic billing, and get this, peak and off-peak rates.
Wait, really? On a dumb outlet?
Yes, because the software knows the time. So the admin can say, hey, electricity is expensive between 4 p.m. and 9 p.m. If you plug in then, the app applies the higher rate.
That's actually smarter than some of the smart chargers I've seen.
It brings dynamic pricing to 50-year-old infrastructure.
I also noticed a note about global currencies and languages.
Which is smart. This I live in a flat and can't charge problem isn't just American. It's in London, Berlin, Tokyo. High-density living is global.
Right.
So having a tool that can switch from dollars to euros to yen lets this scale.
I want to circle back to credibility for a second, because if I'm that HOA president and a tenant comes to me with an app I've never heard of, I'm going to say, is this just some kid's science fair project?
That's a fair worry. You don't want to base your building's finances on vaporware. But there's a really interesting endorsement in the source material from the educational sector.
You're talking about Mark Smith.
Yes, Mark Smith. He's an electrical engineer at Wake Technical College in North Carolina.
And he didn't just give it a thumbs up.
No. He stated that they included EVnSteven in their EVSE technician course for fall 2024.
That feels significant. Why would a college teaching people how to fix chargers care about an app that requires no fixing?
Because it validates the use case. It shows that the industry is realizing that hardware isn't the only answer. Future technicians are being taught. Yes, you can install a fast charger, but for some clients, this software solution is the better fit.
It legitimizes the low-tech approach as a professional solution, not just a hack.
Exactly. It moves it from workaround to standard operating procedure.
And on the user side, we have Tom Ionek-Hugh, great name, by the way.
Clearly a fan of the brand.
He's an HOA resident in San Diego, and he called it a perfect concept for those wanting a no-muss, no-fuss solution.
No muss, no fuss.
Yeah.
That really is the vibe.
Mm-hmm.
He mentions using existing infrastructure not attached to a single-family dwelling. That is the specific niche.
Right. If you own a house, you do what you want. Drill holes, run wires. But if you share walls, fuss is the enemy. Fuss means board meetings and special assessments.
And fuss usually means no.
Eh.
So removing the fuss turns the no into a yes.
I have to ask the question I ask about every app. Data. Does this company now know where I live, when I come home, when I leave, and sell that to advertisers?
It's a valid concern. And this is a trusted community app, so privacy matters. The features list explicitly mentions minimal data collection.
Define minimal.
Well, since it's a software-only solution that doesn't talk to the car's computer, it doesn't know your VIN. It doesn't know your battery health.
Okay.
It really only knows. User A checked in at time X and checked out at time Y.
So it's just a glorified stopwatch with a calculator attached?
Basically, and it's built on Google Cloud, so you have that enterprise-level security, but the actual data footprint is very, very light.
And I saw it supports dark mode?
The most critical feature of all.
Hey, if I'm checking my charging status at 11 p.m. in a dark garage, I don't want to be blinded by my phone.
Fair point. But seriously, that combination of privacy and simplicity is what makes this work for neighbors. You aren't building a surveillance state, you're just tracking a utility.
It's interesting how this whole deep dive has kind of flipped my perspective on infrastructure.
How so?
Well, when we started, I said we have an infrastructure problem. We think that means copper wires, transformers, the grid.
But look at that basement garage again. The copper is there, the outlets are there, the electricity is already flowing.
The building is ready electrically. It just wasn't ready administratively.
That's the aha moment. It's not a voltage problem, it's a billing problem. EVnSteven proves that the barrier to adoption in apartments often isn't physics, it's bureaucracy.
We were waiting for a better plug when we really just needed a better ledger.
Exactly. By removing the need for smart hardware, they've essentially found a way to switch on millions of dormant outlets that were previously off limits.
It really makes you look at a standard wall outlet differently. I mean, I have one right here under the desk. To me, it's just for the lamp. But through this lens, that's a potential fuel pump.
It is. And for a Strata or an HOA, that avoidance of costs is the clincher. It allows them to say yes to their residents without taking on financial risk. It bridges the trust gap.
The HOA trusts they aren't losing money. The driver trusts they're paying a fair rate.
And all it took was a little bit of code.
So let's wrap this up. What does this mean for you, the listener? Maybe you're on a condo board and you're sick of saying no. Or maybe you're that frustrated driver eyeing the outlet in column B42.
Don't steal power.
Don't steal power, but maybe propose a solution. This is a tool that didn't exist a few years ago. It's a reminder that innovation isn't always about a shiny new gadget.
Sometimes innovation is just taking what we already have, these dumb 110-volt outlets, and just making them useful again.
I want to leave you with a thought. We read headlines about the trillions of dollars needed to electrify our future. We panic about the grid. But if we can turn every dumb outlet into a smart charging station just by using an app, how many millions of charging stations effectively already exist right now?
Just waiting to be switched on.
Just waiting for the software. Think about that the next time you walk past a lonely outlet in a parking garage. It might be the future of fueling.
It just might be.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive. Go check your garage outlets, and we'll catch you on the next one.
See you then.